Taking pleasure in the troubles of one's ideological enemies is not something to be proud of. But it's difficult to suppress at least a small degree of satisfaction in the news that Andrew O'Keefe, TV host and founder of White Ribbon Australia, has been charged with domestic violence. I'm Janice Fiamengo. Newspapers are reporting that police responded to a complaint of a violent altercation late on Saturday, January 30th, 2021, and charged TV host Andrew O'Keefe early in the morning of Sunday, January 31st in Sydney, Australia. He is charged with one count of common assault against his 41-year-old partner, Dr. Orly Lavie. O'Keefe has been a relentlessly self-satisfied and self-promoting male feminist who has built a very successful career by preening for the camera as the face of good masculinity, lecturing less good men on how they should conduct themselves. He has encouraged men to set an example by calling out boorish blokes when they fail to show appropriate respect for women. He has even recommended that men investigate, whatever that would mean, if they suspect domestic violence is occurring. Here he is on Australian television, spelling out for Channel 7 viewers the twin pillars of white ribbon masculine rectitude.
So the two things that we ask all men to do is A, choose non-violence in your own life. You know, it's natural that you're going to have disagreements with your partner. But how do you have those disagreements? Do you yell, scream, slam doors, bash walls, hit your partner, call each other terrible names? Or do you commit that in your own life, you're going to work these things out calmly, kindly, verbally? And if worse comes to worse, simply walk away till it all cools down. So in ways like that, you can challenge, abuse in your own life and also challenge the violent behaviours and attitudes that you see around you by, for example, picking up your mates when they say something that's really denigrating towards women, or calling the boss out when he's sexually harassing someone in the workplace. Making an investigation when you feel that someone may be abusing their partner.
Now that is a man aglow with self-love. O'Keefe was co-founder and past chairman of White Ribbon Australia, a feminist organization that defines domestic violence as male violence against women, essentially recognizing no other kind. In 2017, a White Ribbon blog post about the Me Too movement explained to men in no uncertain terms how they should respond online and in person to the mass accusations then occurring. Number 1 on the White Ribbon list was, quote, believe survivors' experiences, end quote. And damn anyone who expressed skepticism. Men were told to, quote, support survivors by doing the hard emotional labor of blocking, reporting, or engaging with hateful misogynistic comments, end quote. O'Keefe had for years been doing that hard emotional labor quite enthusiastically in his role as presenter on Channel 7's Weekend Sunrise news program, a role he occupied until 2017. In this capacity, he famously chastised Cassie Jaye for daring to interview men's rights activists respectfully for her Red Pill documentary about men's rights activism. O'Keefe had already tried and failed to smear Paul Elam some 3 years previously during an aggressive interview, so with Jaye, he contented himself by declaring Elam a misogynist and lecturing Jaye about how concerning it was that her movie showed men's rights activists speaking for men, when we all know that only feminists should be allowed to speak for men. He didn't quite say it that way, and here he is in all his disingenuous, lip-smacking, virtue-signaling smarm.
Well, I mean, we've done a lot of reading around Paul Elam over the years. In fact, we've interviewed Paul Elam, and there's no denying that a lot of what he says is deeply misogynist. My concern, Cassie, is just is that in setting up these guys as the spokesman for the issues that men face, we promote an opposition between men and feminism that's counterproductive to the genders working together to solve everyone's problems.
I almost forgot to mention that the most astounding thing about this interview was the fact that neither of the hosts had actually seen the movie they were denouncing. O'Keefe's non-stop self-promotion as a feminist role model makes it difficult, to say the least, to fully empathize with him now. In 2016, he authored an article called Why We Need White Ribbon, in which he dispensed gems of profundity about gender equality and respect, at one point waxing eloquent about the injustice of a world in which his daughter was allegedly not as safe as his two sons. He asked, quote, "Why should any person be robbed of their health or their dignity or their self-esteem or their kids or their life just because of the lottery of their gender," end quote. He seemed genuinely not to realize, or just didn't care, that throughout history and today, men are far more likely than women to lose their lives violently, with Australian men, for example, making up 70% of all homicides. He also seemed unaware that men are far more likely than women to be robbed through a false accusation or the simple machinery of divorce of their health, their dignity, their self-esteem, and their kids. So now O'Keefe has himself been accused, and not surprisingly is getting no support at all from his former employer, Channel 7, which has simply announced that he's no longer employed there, or from White Ribbon Australia, which has quickly disavowed him and posted a statement assuming his guilt. After mentioning that O'Keefe hasn't been involved with White Ribbon for some time, the organization couldn't resist commenting on the allegation against him, saying, quote, "We stand in solidarity with every victim and survivor of men's violence against women and believe men who use violence must be held to account," end quote. The organization even had the gall to advise all men to use the incident of O'Keefe's fall from grace as an opportunity for penitential self-examination, saying, quote, "Every man should take this occurrence as an opportunity to reflect on their own attitudes, behaviors, and relationships with the women in their lives," end quote. So much for the presumption of innocence. Wow. O'Keefe had better hope that those who preside at his trial will not have read White Ribbon literature about believing survivors and condemning those who would blame them. He's already coming out swinging, so to speak, in his own defense, alleging through his lawyer that he was, quote, "not the aggressor" in the Saturday night incident. Just a few weeks ago, he would almost certainly have jeered in disbelief at the idea of a woman physically attacking a man or being an equal participant in an emotion-fueled, perhaps alcohol-fueled row. I don't claim to know what actually happened on the night in question or what the incident says, if anything, about O'Keefe's years-long feminist activism. I'm not that inclined to the theory, though it is an interesting one, that men adopt a feminist identity as a cover for or in response to their own misogyny or abusiveness. The charge against O'Keefe is, in my opinion, simply proof that an allegation can happen to anyone, and indeed that most of us, at one time or another, have done things that under current definitions could be considered domestic abuse. I certainly have. O'Keefe is undoubtedly a privileged person, not because of the lottery of his gender, but because he is a wealthy, powerfully connected member of Australia's media elite, a former lawyer, and the son of a New South Wales Supreme Court judge. So he'll be able to pay whatever is needed to defend himself, which many men can't. I doubt this incident will convert him to men's rights activism or even cause him to develop real understanding of men's position in our man-blaming society. But he is experiencing, perhaps for the first time, the loneliness of the accused man. And given his past record, that couldn't have happened to a more deserving guy.